Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is RCB News, and I am your host, Ryan Bowling. I want to get right into the subject at hand. Just a while ago, I was watching a video that I had gotten from Anthony Brown Logan's channel, and it was in reference to a NAACP leader at a rally. The video only lasted about a minute and perhaps a minute and a few seconds. But in this video, this African American NAACP leader is ranting and giving this intensive speech to a group of people about CRT or critical race theory. And towards the end of her speech, she says, "Let them die." Obviously, a reference to those who reject critical race theory or CRT. Now, after watching this short video, I was appalled that such a person could say such a thing. Here we have an NAACP leader, the very kinds of people that you would think that will be fighting for true civil rights for blacks, is actually, whether she realizes it or not, promoting a anti-white, an anti-white ideology. Now, before I go into any further into this video, I want to explain to those who might not know what CRT or critical race theory is. Critical race theory is the teaching or the ideology that whites are inherently racist simply because they're white, and POC, or people of color, as we already know, blacks in particular, are the victims of white systemic racism or white oppressors. So therefore, no matter what, according to critical race theory, no matter what white people try to do, they can never overcome their whiteness. So they have to strive to overcome their whiteness, first by acknowledging that they are racist by nature and that they are oppressors, and that those who are oppressed, they have to stop oppressing. This is what critical race theory is all about. It is a flipping of racism as compared to the form of racism that was a part of America in the early history of America. Before then, many decades ago, particularly during slavery and sometime after slavery, particularly in reference to Jim Crow laws, it was taught by the elites, the intellectual elites, that African Americans and other people of color were inferior simply because of their ethnicity or their race or their skin color. Now it is flipped around. And now it's teaching through the concept of critical race theory that whites are inherently racist simply because of their race. Now you got to get this now, because this is crazy. This is crazy. And if you want to watch the video, I do have a link to the video in the description box below. You can link onto it and you can watch it for yourself. But this is crazy. This is madness, because first and foremost, this is a theory. And a theory is something that may have some concepts of reality, but cannot be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Just like the theory of evolution, when they removed prayer and removed creation, rather, out of the schools and replaced it with the theory of evolution, it did not make things better for the students. It actually made things worse, because you cannot prove that we ascended or descended or whatever, or evolved from monkeys and so forth. There is no proof for that. It's a theory. Well, the same concept here. CRT or critical race theory is simply that. It's a theory. There is no proof that white people are racist simply because of their skin color, and that blacks and people of so-called color, POC, are oppressed no matter what they try to do. What this whole idea of critical race theory ignores, and what people who adhere to this philosophy or this ideology ignores, is the myriad of Caucasians and the myriad of blacks that reject this concept of critical race theory simply by their lifestyle. Isn't it not true that during the beginning of the abolition of slavery in America, the vast majority of the people that did this were whites? And history states that the initiation of getting rid of slavery started in the West and not anywhere else. In other words, the whole idea of abolishing slavery started in America and Great Britain and then branched out in all the other countries. And this was mostly done by white people. Yes, there were black people involved, but this was initiated and mostly done by white people. So if the concept of critical race theory is true, and if people keep yielding to it, then what about all of these white people that have attributed to the betterment of black people? I could go on and on and on and on and on about that. And critical race theory is silly because think about it. They say you're racist simply because you're white. Okay, well, what about all of these white people? And this kind of connects to the old thing of, let me take a sidebar here. This kind of connects to this whole thing about white privilege. Because white privilege is the idea that, oh, you got what you became successful because you were white. In other words, you didn't work for your degree. You didn't work to get that home. You didn't work to get that position on your job. You got it simply because you were white. And the sadness and craziness about that whole idea is that it's not true. I work at a job where I talk to white people all the time who have broken their necks, so to speak, to get to where they are. Where's the concept of white privilege there? Where's the concept of critical race theory there? How can you put the two together? And this is a dangerous, dangerous ideology that is being taught in our schools. It's definitely being taught in the college universities, but it is also being taught in schools from K to 12. And I think I mentioned this a little bit in one of my former videos. Now, there was a mainstream media reporter, and I cannot remember her name, but she was an African-American mainstream reporter. I think she was on CNN, that stated that CRT or critical race theory is not being taught in the schools. That's a lie. She's lying right off the bat. That is not true. If that was true, then why are so many parents, black and white, protesting against critical race theory? What, they just made it up out of the top of their head and said, you know what, we're going to go around here protesting and we're going to hold rallies protesting something that does not exist. What these schools are doing, because they know you just can't come out and say critical race theory and teach it in the schools that way with that title. So what they do is they veil it or they cover it up in other terms like race ethics or whatever. That's a term that's more appealing to the masses of people, but it's deceptive. It's a lie, because when the kids get into school, they're being taught, the white kids are being taught that you racist simply because you're white. Think about what kind of impact that can have on a white kid. Think about what kind of impact they can have on an African-American or an Asian that's in the class, or a Latino that's in the class. They're hearing these teachers teach this nonsense, this demonic, satanic nonsense to these children. Think about the psychological and spiritual impact that can have on them. These are young kids. Their minds are very impressionable. Can you imagine the impact? That's confusing to them. And that's really, in my opinion, that's really the objective. The objective is to confuse them, fill them with hate. Now, let me put this out here. Let me say this too. Critical race theory, I believe, based on my studies, is a derivative of a concept known as critical theory. And critical theory is a teaching or an ideology that stems from the teaching of Marxism. When the Marxist professors from the Frankfurt School of Marxism migrated here to America in the 1930s, they began to teach this concept of critical theory in the schools, but it was just merely called critical theory. Critical race theory is a derivative of critical theory, in my opinion, but it's based on my studies. In my opinion, it is a derivative of critical theory. The concept of critical theory, or the ideology of critical theory, is that you can't take everything at face value. That makes sense. I get that. You shouldn't take everything at face value. You should analyze it. But what critical theory is that it is designed to tear down and confuse what is obviously clearly taught. In other words, 1 + 1 is 2. Everybody universally agrees that 1 + 1 is 2. Critical theory will try to change that up and change it into something that it really isn't. Critical theory is designed to deconstruct what is absolute truth and absolute right. Critical theory is designed to deconstruct it and say to the young people, put into the minds of the young people, make up your own meaning, make up your own interpretation. But you cannot make up your own meaning. You cannot make up a meaning of 1 + 1. 1 + 1 is always 2. You can't make up something. No, it's 3. No, it's 4. No, it's 5. It's universally accepted as 2. So that's what critical theory is. Critical race theory is a derivative of that teaching and ideology that started here in America in the early 1900s, around the 1930s, when the Marxist professors from the Frankfurt School of Marxism migrated here to America in the 1930s and began to spread this ideology and this philosophy among the universities in this country. So critical race theory is a poison designed to separate us. It is a poison designed to separate us. It is a poison designed to divide us, that I believe is a poison designed to divide us, separate us, fill white people with hate and anger, and fill black people with hate and anger at each other, black people in particular. Because when I'm at work, I hear this all the time. Just about a week or so ago, I do security at downtown Tower City. And about a week ago, we get a call, and I'm a bike patrolman. We get a call that someone is throwing up in the bathroom inside the first level of Tower City. So I go in, I answer the call, I go in and everything, and the EMS comes in. And when we go down there to the area where this guy is, he's an African American, and here's the killer part here. And I know this is gonna sound kind of comical, but you'll see what I mean. How this critical race theory and race of this and race of this is getting to the minds of so many people and poisoning them, poisoning their perceptions. We go down there, the guy is black, and there's 2 police officers that happen to be white. And the EMS people are white. I'm the only black person there. So we try to get this guy, it's so funny. Because we try to get this guy to get up. He stands up and spreads himself alter ego on the wall like somebody saying you under arrest. And I'm just chuckling. I'm like, what is this guy doing? So he's ranting and raving and talking about, you know, the white man this and the white man this, and y'all know how y'all police do. And I'm saying, oh my God. Oh my God. So they put him on the gurney or whatever you call that thing. They take him up. We get in the elevator. We're on the elevator. I'm behind this guy. The paramedics is behind. I'm behind the guy on the right-hand side. The paramedics is on the other side. 2 white paramedics. And he makes this statement that's to these paramedics that's so stupid. He says, well, man, I know how you white people do, man. I know how y'all do to us in the hospital. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God. So he looks over to me. He looks over to me and says, how you doing, brother? And I really wanted to say, I'm not your brother, first and foremost. And number 2, I'm just like, hey, I'm here to do a job. It has nothing to do with race. I wanted to tell him, here you are spitting all this hate towards these people, but they're the ones helping you, you big dummy. They're the ones trying to help you to get you where you need to be, but yet you spitting racist crap on them. So it's just ridiculous. This critical race theory and this whole idea of racial this, race this, black this, white this, is separating and dividing our country. And it's filling the minds of people who have weak minds with hate and bitterness toward each other. Eventually, what I believe is going to happen is going to lead to a civil war. And that is what the communist Marxist professors and the communist Marxist sympathizers want. They want a race war. Don't fall for it. Don't go for it. Don't let it poison your mind. So I want to end this video with 3 points that I wanted to bring out. I wanted to end this video with 3, what I consider to be 3 solutions, because I like to give solutions. Because a lot of this stuff can be negative, it can be kind of rough, it can be kind of harsh. And I wanted to give some solutions that I believe God has laid on my heart. The first is quite simple and straightforward, is educate yourself on what CRT or critical race theory is. I've already told you about that, but if you want to go a little bit further into it, you can study a little bit more on it. There are resources for that. Educate yourself on what critical race theory is. It is a true phenomenon. It is being taught in our schools, but they're using other titles to cover up its true essence. They don't necessarily call it critical race theory. They'll call it, as I said earlier in this video, race ethics or whatever. They'll give it another title, but the actual curriculum is based on saying that white people are inherently racist and people of color or black people are oppressed, and that no matter what they do, they're going to always be inferior, That's basically what that teaches, no matter what kind of title they give them. So educate yourself on what CRT is. Secondly, expose the hypocrisy of the leaders to family and friends on the left. Now get this now. Expose the hypocrisy of the leaders of the critical race theory and Marxists to family and friends on the left. Why do I say to the left? Because obviously, for most of you that may be conservatives, you and I know about this. It's those who are on the left that are being deceived and misled by the leaders who are pushing this ideology. So we have a responsibility to share this information to them, to expose it, and show them what it really means. Show them the hypocrisy of these leaders. These leaders say one thing, but then they do another thing. It's all about money and power to them. And thirdly, explain. I wanted to mention something that's very important to all of those that may be watching this news show and this video. If you are a born-again Christian, as I am, my word to you is continue to pray. We must pray intensely and directly. This is a spiritual battle. This is a spirit. For those of us that are Christian, we understand the spiritual implications. The Bible says in Ephesians 6 chapter, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and spiritual wickedness in high places. Those of us that are Christians, we understand that there's a unseen realm that has a effect on the three-dimensional realm, physical realm that we live in. And that critical race theory and Marxism and communism and socialism are the physical three-dimensional tools or tactics or devices that the spiritual realm uses to dismantle this country. So as Christians, we have a responsibility to educate ourselves, stay into the word, stay on our knees, and pray specifically for what this is. Pray that God will fight on the behalf of our schools, fight on the behalf of our government, fight on the behalf of our children. We as Christians have the responsibility. So that's my word to those of you that are Christians. And I'm going to end this by saying I hope you all have enjoyed this video. If you like this video, press the like button, make your comments in the comment section, share, and subscribe. God bless you, and see you next time on RCB News.